Hi there, and welcome back to another RRC Restoration. Now, in the quest for views, I could quite easily take this bike outside and give it the old abandoned in some wild and remote place where no one would ever leave a bike treatment. Or I could go with the even more popular 40-year-old vehicle left in a barn for 50 years angle. Get your head around that math. But I won't be pulling any cheap tricks like that. As you see it sitting here is exactly how it arrived from the dealership I bought it from. So let's have a quick look around and then just jump straight in and get on with the restoration. So what we're looking at here is a Piaggio Vespa P125X. It was manufactured in Italy in 1979 and was then shipped to the USA where it spent most of its life until being imported to the UK by the dealership I bought it from. And although it looks good, there are a multitude of horrors lurking underneath that shiny paintwork, which of course is not the original colour, but I'll get onto that subject in a little while. As you saw, the odometer says that it has travelled 12,000 miles in 46 years, but since there is no way to verify that, let's take it with a pinch of salt. Sadly, it's not a runner at the moment as it has electrical issues. No surprises there then, eh? Well, that's the tour over, now let's tear it apart. Before going any further, I think it's probably wise to take a photo of where all the wires go. To save a bit of time, I took the clutch cable off already, but it's the exact same process as the brake cable. I was wondering how long it would take to come across the obligatory wood screw. Well, that's the front end off, and to be honest, it was way more work than I was expecting. But hey, it's my first time working on a Vespa, and I'm sure there will be plenty more for me to learn about them along the way. Whoops, sorry George. Judging by how brittle and corroded these wires are, I think this might be the source of the electrical issues with this bike, but I'll know for sure a bit later on in the build. To stop the frame tipping over when I remove the engine, I've tied it to the bike lift. For such a small and neatly packed engine, it's deceptively heavy, which was quite surprising. Now all that's left to do is remove a few bits of wiring and some trim, so in order to save a bit of time, you know what it's time for. Well, that's the Vespa totally stripped down, and I'm really happy to say that I haven't uncovered any major issues yet. Especially when it comes to rust, because as you can see, everything looks pretty original and not full of filler or repair panels, so that's always nice. It's the benefits of spending its life in a dry climate most of its days, I suppose. Seeing it all laid out like this makes it very clear that there is a lot of paint to strip, and after stripping the CRX back to bare metal by hand, I really can't face doing it again just yet. So what I'm going to do is let it be someone else's problem, and send it out for sandblasting. With the frame delivered, let us jump back to the workshop and prepare the rest of the parts for primer and paint. With this shot you can clearly see the damage to the speedometer bezel, but for the life of me I can't think what would cause this damage to the metal but not crack the glass. This ignition switch looks very new, like just out of the box new. So what I'm going to do now is head out to the blaster to clean up the metal parts. And with the metal parts clean, I can now tackle the plastics. Now, since they are plastic, there is no corrosion to worry about, so all I need to do is give them a good scuff up so the new layer of primer sticks properly. Well, that's that job done. Now to go and collect the frame. So you're probably thinking, why is the frame white if it's been sandblasted? Well, the answer is, I paid a bit extra and had them blast and prime the frame at the same time. A, to stop any flash rust forming, and B, to save me some time, as this episode has already overrun my schedule massively. Since this is a US spec bike, the front mudguard has a few extra holes for side reflectors that aren't required for a UK bike, so I will be welding them up. A top tip for welding holes in thin steel is to use a bit of copper as a backing metal to get a good clean weld. And since it's copper, it draws the heat away nicely, so you stand less chance of blowing holes. So you've seen the main bulk of the repair work, so what I'll do now is just fling in a few jump cuts to show the rest of the process, and then we can crack on with the painting process. With the repairs done, I now need to spot prime them, and then add a bit of protection to the frame, but I'll get onto that in a second. So in order to give the frame some much needed protection from the Scottish elements, I'm going to apply a hard protective layer on the inside of the mudguards and on the underside of the floor. With the stone chip applied, I now need to leave it overnight to cure, and then we can finally get some colour laid down. Now, one of the many benefits of being an RRC patron is that you get lots of exclusive behind the scenes content and can have your say on what projects I tackle next. So I put this post up a few weeks ago announcing this very project and gave full control to my patrons over the colour choice. Now, they could have chose any colour under the rainbow, metallic, candy, polka dot, whichever they saw fit, and I would have had to paint the Vespa that colour. Now, it clearly turns out that my awesome patrons are purists a bit like myself, because what they chose was to put the bike back to its original red colour, which I wholeheartedly approve of. And if you fancy keeping this channel alive and supporting more of these projects, be sure to check out my page on Patreon. Cheers guys! And now to give it its shine with a few layers of lacquer. So with the clear coat applied and curing, it's now time to move on to the really fun part, dealing with the mechanical side of things. The first step of which is going to be getting the wheels and brake drums off. I've just realised that this video is already over 30 minutes long, so what I think I'll do here is end the video and save the mechanical side of things for next time. And let us not forget to say a massive thank you to all of the people whose names you can see scrolling past at the minute, as without them these videos just wouldn't be possible, so thank you. And of course, a big thank you goes out to all of you who watch, subscribe and comment on my videos as well, so thanks for that. and I'll see you all again next time.